Listen closely. This is for you. There is a man inside you who has never lost. Not once. Not ever. He has been waiting since the day you were born, patient, undefeated, untouched by your excuses. And there is another man, the one you've been living as, the one who settles, who hesitates, who calls comfort peace and calls fear practicality. That man must go. Not tomorrow. Not when it's convenient. Now. Because the tragedy of most men is not that they failed. It is that they never dared to fail at something big enough to matter. They played it safe their whole lives and called it wisdom. They stayed small and called it humility. They stayed the same and called it stability. But stability is just decay moving slowly enough that you don't notice it. Growth is not luck. Growth is not an accident that happens to the fortunate. Growth is a decision made daily, defended daily, paid for daily. Every great man who ever left a mark on this earth understood one truth before anyone clapped for him. The version of himself that got him here will not get him there. He had to bury that version without ceremony, without mourning, and build someone new from the wreckage. You've heard it said that whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Most men hear that and smile and go back to sleep. They treat it like a poster on a wall instead of a command. But that single idea, taken seriously, taken literally, is enough to end the life of the man you've been. Because if your mind can conceive a bigger life and believe in a bigger life, then the only thing standing between you and that life is your refusal to become the man capable of holding it. Not luck, not circumstance, not the economy, not your family, not your past. You, your identity, your comfort, your addiction to being who you've always been. Here is the truth. Nobody wants to hand you for free. Your current results are not random. They are the visible proof of your invisible identity. You are not underachieving by accident. You are living exactly at the level of the man you believe yourself to be. Change the results and nothing happens. Change the man and the results have no choice but to follow. This is why so many men chase tactics, chase shortcuts, chase the next system, the next hack, the next book, and nothing changes. They are trying to extract better fruit from the same root. But the root is rotten. The root is an old identity, a smaller self, a frightened boy wearing a grown man's clothes. You do not need another tactic. You need a funeral. Bury him. The man who wakes up and negotiates with his alarm. The man who has a goal but no deadline. The man who calls his fear being realistic. The man who has said, "I'll start Monday," more times than he can count. That man is not you. That man was assembled by accident out of the comments of teachers who underestimated you, the doubts of parents who feared for you, the small failures that convinced you to play small forever. He was built by your environment, not by your design. And what was built by accident can be demolished on purpose. This is not about motivation. Motivation is a spark, and sparks die in the wind. What you need is a decision, because a decision is a fire you carry inside you, regardless of the weather. Decide right now, before you finish this sentence, that the man reading these words will not be the man who exists tomorrow. Decide that today is the last day you negotiate with your own mediocrity. Because here is what nobody tells you about greatness. It is not reserved for the talented. It is reserved for the relentless. Talent without discipline is a rumor. Discipline without talent is a certainty. Every burning desire you have ever felt and buried, every ambition you smothered because someone told you to be reasonable, every version of the life you wanted before the world talked you out of it, that desire is not gone. It is trapped. It is trapped underneath 10 years of small choices that told your subconscious mind you didn't really mean it. Your subconscious does not listen to what you wish for. It listens to what you repeat. If you repeat excuses, it builds you into a man of excuses. If you repeat discipline, it builds you into a man of discipline. It does not judge the input. It only manufactures the output. So stop feeding it your doubts and start feeding it your decision. You must develop what the old masters called a burning desire, not a wish, not a preference, not a it would be nice. A burning desire is a desire so specific and so intense that it reorganizes your entire nervous system around achieving it. Most men do not fail because they lack ability. They fail because their desire is lukewarm. Lukewarm desire produces lukewarm effort, and lukewarm effort produces a lukewarm life, and a lukewarm life is the quietest tragedy a man can live, because no one will ever tell him he wasted it. They will tell him he was fine. Fine is the eulogy of unlived potential. So ask yourself, and answer without flinching, is your desire burning, or is it just warm? Because warm desire lets you sleep in. Burning desire will not let you rest until the debt between who you are and who you could be is paid in full. The old you was comfortable with warm. The new you must become allergic to it. Here is what separates the men who transform from the men who talk about transforming. Definiteness of purpose. Not a vague hope to do better or be happier or get in shape someday. A definite target burned into the mind with such clarity that your subconscious has no choice but to organize your habits around it. Vague goals produce vague men. A man with no definite purpose drifts, and drifting feels safe because it never demands a decision. But drifting is simply the slow motion version of losing. You do not fall off a cliff of mediocrity in one dramatic moment. You drift there, one unexamined day at a time, until you wake up 10 years older in the exact same position, wondering where the time went. The time went into your refusal to decide. Decide now what the next version of you looks like. Not someday, not vaguely, specifically. What time does he wake up? What does he eat? What does he read? Who does he associate with? What does he refuse to tolerate anymore? Build him in your mind with the precision of an architect, because a house built without blueprints collapses, and a life built without a defined identity does the same. And once you have defined him, you must feed him daily through auto-suggestion, through the repeated, disciplined command of your own mind. Every morning you wake up and either strengthen the old identity or weaken it. There is no third option. There is no pause button on becoming. The moment you stop demanding growth is the exact moment decay resumes its work, quietly, patiently, without asking your permission. You must understand something about the old self before you can kill him properly. He is not lazy by nature. He is loyal to safety. Every excuse he generates is not weakness. It is a survival mechanism protecting you from the discomfort of change. Your brain is wired to keep you alive. not to make you great. Alive means predictable, familiar, unchanged. Great means unfamiliar, uncertain, and uncomfortable. So when you feel resistance rising the moment you try to build something new, understand what that resistance actually is. It is not a signal to stop. It is proof that you are finally pushing against the walls of your old identity. Comfort will always defend its territory. Your job is to make that territory smaller every single day until there is nothing left of it to defend. This is why persistence matters more than intensity. A man who works furiously for 1 week and quits is not disciplined. He is dramatic. A man who does the smaller, unglamorous work every single day for years, that is the man who becomes unrecognizable. Persistence is not exciting. It will never trend. Nobody claps for the version of you that shows up on the boring Tuesday when nothing is going right and no one is watching. But that Tuesday, repeated for 1,000 days, is what actually builds the man your future depends on. The old, you wanted the highlight reel. The new you understands that the highlight reel is made entirely of unglamorous Tuesdays, stacked on top of each other. Understand this too. No man builds an empire alone, and no man kills his old self alone either. You need what the old teachers called a mastermind, a small circle of people whose standards are higher than your current habits, whose presence makes your excuses feel foolish before you even speak them. If everyone around you accepts your excuses, you will keep making them, because comfort loves company. Audit the people closest to you, not with cruelty, but with honesty. Are they building you, or are they keeping you at a size that makes them comfortable? Growth will cost you some relationships. Let it. You are not obligated to stay small so that other people can stay comfortable around you. The old you sought permission. The new you seeks alignment. Alignment with the identity you have decided to become, not with the opinions of people who have never paid the price you are about to pay. Some will call your transformation arrogance. Let them. Arrogance is what mediocrity calls ambition when it feels threatened by it. Here is a truth that will offend the man you've been. Comfort is not neutral. Comfort is not simply doing nothing. Comfort is actively working against you every single day you allow it to. It is compounding interest, except instead of building your wealth, it is building your regret. Every day you choose ease. You are not standing still. You are sliding backward, because everyone around you who is disciplined is moving forward, and standing still relative to forward motion is functionally the same as falling behind. There is no neutral gear in growth. There is only forward or backward, and comfort is always, without exception, backward. So what does it actually look like to bury the old self? It looks unglamorous. It looks like waking up before you feel like it, not because mornings are magic, but because winning the first hour of the day proves to your own mind that you are no longer negotiable with yourself. It looks like doing the difficult conversation you've been avoiding, not because confrontation is fun, but because avoidance is just fear wearing the mask of patience. It looks like finishing what you start, even when the excitement wore off in week 2. Because the old you quit when the feeling faded, and the new you understands that feelings were never a reliable form of leadership. It looks like auditing your inputs. What are you feeding your mind? Every piece of content, every conversation, every hour of scrolling either sharpens the man you are becoming or dulls him. There is no such thing as harmless consumption. Everything you let into your mind either strengthens your definite purpose or erodes it. The old you consumed whatever was convenient. The new you consumes what is necessary, what strengthens, what demands more of him, rather than numbing him into acceptance of where he already is. And you must understand that transmutation is the mechanism by which all of this becomes real. Desire alone changes nothing. Desire transmuted into disciplined, repeated, specific action is the only force that has ever built anything of value in this world. You can want a better life with your whole chest and still die in the exact same position you started, because wanting was never the missing ingredient. Action was. Consistent, uncomfortable, unglamorous action. Repeated. Long after the initial excitement has completely disappeared. This is where most men lose the war. Not in the big dramatic moment of decision, but in the quiet, boring middle where the newness has worn off and the results haven't arrived yet. That middle is where the old self makes his final stand. He will not scream at you to quit. He will whisper. He will say you've done enough for today. He will say, tomorrow is soon enough. He will remind you that no one would blame you for resting a little longer. That whisper is the most dangerous voice you will ever hear, because it never sounds like defeat. It always sounds like reason. You must learn to recognize reasonable sounding retreat for what it actually is. Every time your old identity tries to negotiate a smaller version of your effort, understand that you are being recruited back into a life you already decided to leave. Do not entertain the negotiation. Do not compromise with him for just this once, because just this once is the exact phrase that built every unfulfilled life in human history. The man who says, just this once today, will say it again tomorrow, and again next week, until an entire year has vanished into the phrase, and he will look up one day and wonder why nothing changed. Nothing changed because he kept letting the old version of himself win the small moments, thinking the big moment would somehow be different. It never is. The big moment is only ever the sum of 10,000 small moments you already surrendered. So here is your standard now. Not a hope, not a wish, a standard. Does this align with the man I have decided to become, or does it belong to the man I am burying? Filter everything through that single question. Your food, your mornings, your friendships, your entertainment, your excuses. If it serves the new identity, keep it. If it belongs to the old one, let it die with him. Grief will come. Do not be surprised by it. You will grieve the ease of your old life, the predictability of it, even the identity of a man who was liked, precisely because he never demanded much of himself or anyone else. That grief is real, but it is not a reason to turn back. It is simply the proof that a genuine death occurred, and nothing worth becoming has ever been built without one. Understand also that this is not a single event. It is not a weekend seminar or a New Year's resolution that fades by the second week of January. This is a daily practice, a daily war, fought in the quiet hour before anyone else is awake. In the decision to keep a promise to yourself, when no one would ever know if you broke it. Character is not built in the moments people are watching. It is built in the moments only you will ever know about, and it is in those private moments, repeated relentlessly, that a man either earns his future or forfeits it. The old self does not leave in one dramatic confrontation. He leaves the way he arrived, in small daily increments, disciplined choice by disciplined choice, until one day you realize you no longer recognize the man you used to be, and more importantly, you no longer miss him. That is not loss. That is arrival. You must also accept that the world does not owe your new identity an audience. Most of your transformation will happen with no one clapping, no one noticing, no one validating it. That is by design. If you need applause to keep going, you were never building for yourself. You were performing for approval, and approval is a currency that runs out the moment the crowd's attention moves elsewhere. Build the new man for the version of you who will inherit the results 10 years from now, not for the people scrolling past your life today. There will be days the old identity feels stronger than your resolve. That is normal. That does not mean you have failed. It means the war is real, and real wars have setbacks. The difference between the man who transforms and the man who doesn't is not the absence of setbacks. It is the refusal to accept the setback as a verdict. A setback is data, not destiny. Adjust and continue. The old you would have used the setback as proof that change was never possible for someone like him. The new you understands that a setback is simply the tuition you pay on the way to mastery. Here is something the old teachers understood that most men never learn until it's too late. Your physical condition, your mental habits, and your spiritual clarity are not three separate categories. They are one integrated system. Neglect your body, and your discipline weakens everywhere else. Neglect your mind, and your body follows. Neglect a sense of purpose beyond yourself, and even your greatest achievements will feel hollow the moment you reach them. The man who wants to outgrow his old self entirely must rebuild on all three fronts at once, because a man who is disciplined in business but undisciplined in his health is still fundamentally an undisciplined man. Wholeness is not optional in this process. It is the entire point of it. Consider what you are actually building toward. Not simply more money, though that may come. Not simply more recognition, though that may come too. You are building toward a version of yourself who, at the end of his life, can look back without the specific regret of knowing he had more in him and chose comfort instead. That is the only real failure available to a man with your potential, not the failure of falling short of a goal, but the failure of never even trying with the full weight of who you actually are. Falling short while giving everything is not tragedy. It is simply information for the next attempt. Withholding your full effort out of fear, that is the only true defeat, and it is the one defeat entirely within your control to avoid, so return again and again to the decision. Every morning is a fresh vote for the identity you are building or the one you are abandoning. There is no bank of accumulated discipline that carries you automatically through a lazy week. Yesterday's effort does not pay for today's excuse. Each day demands its own proof. This is not meant to discourage you. It is meant to free you because it means the past does not have the final word. No matter how many days you gave to the old version of yourself, today can still be the first day of the new one. The math does not care about your history. It only cares about your next decision. Understand also that discomfort is not a sign you're doing something wrong. It is the most reliable sign you're doing something right. The body and mind resist growth because growth threatens the current equilibrium. And the nervous system is built to protect equilibrium, not to pursue greatness. So when the resistance rises, and it will rise, do not interpret it as evidence to stop. Interpret it as confirmation that you are finally pressing against the edge of who you used to be. Ease is the language of the old self. Discomfort, chosen deliberately and repeatedly, is the language of the new one. You do not need more information to begin this. You already have more knowledge about self-improvement than any generation in history has ever had access to, and yet most men remain exactly where they started because information was never the missing piece. Application was. Stop consuming another video, another book, another framework as a substitute for the actual decision to act. At some point, more input becomes a sophisticated form of procrastination, a way of feeling productive while avoiding the actual discomfort of change. If you have understood the principle, the next step is never another explanation. It is action today in the smallest available form right now before the feeling fades. And when you act with the full weight of your decision behind it, not as an experiment you're testing to see if it works, but as a declaration of who you have already decided to be. Half measures produce half results, and half results feed the old identity's argument that none of this really works anyway. Go all in on the decision, not because you are certain of the outcome, but because certainty was never available to anyone who has ever built something meaningful. Faith, the kind that acts before the evidence arrives, is the currency every transformation is purchased with. No one gets to see the proof before they pay the price. That is precisely why so few ever collect it. Here is the final truth, and it is the only one that matters. Once everything else has been said. The man capable of the life you want already exists inside you, formed and waiting, patient beyond your understanding of patience. He has been waiting through every excuse, every delay, every year you called yourself unready. He does not need you to become someone entirely foreign to yourself. He needs you to stop protecting the smaller version that has been standing in front of him this entire time. Every day you choose comfort, you keep him waiting one more day. Every day you choose discipline, you let him take one more step forward into a life that was always meant to be his. There is no perfect moment to begin this. There never was, and there never will be. The right time was never going to arrive gift-wrapped with confidence and certainty attached. The right time is only ever the moment you decide, in the middle of doubt, in the middle of fear, in the middle of an ordinary Tuesday that looks like every other day you've ever lived, that this is the day the old version of you stops being funded by your excuses. So decide. Not tomorrow. Not after the next milestone, the next paycheck, the next Monday. Now, in this moment, while the decision is still warm in your chest. Decide that the man who has been running your life on autopilot comfortable, hesitant, addicted to the identity that kept him safe, is no longer welcome to make the decisions. Decide that from this point forward, every choice will be measured against the man you are building, not the man you have been. Bury him properly. Not with anger, not with self-hatred, but with the quiet finality of a man who understands that some things must end so that other things can finally begin. He served his purpose. He got you here. But he cannot take you further. And the further you were always meant to go is waiting patiently for the man willing to leave the old one behind. That man is not a stranger. That man is you, the one who was always underneath the noise, the excuses, the comfort, the fear. Stop waiting for him to arrive on his own. He does not arrive. He is built one disciplined decision at a time, one uncomfortable morning at a time, one buried excuse at a time, until there is nothing left of the old identity to defend. And all that remains is the man you were always capable of becoming. Rise now. Not because it is easy, but because the cost of staying the same was never actually safety. It was only ever a slower, quieter, more comfortable form of loss. And you were never born to lose quietly. You were born to become deliberately, relentlessly, without apology, the man your own potential has been waiting your entire life for you to finally choose.